Okay, welcome to the fourth episode of Stream of Thoughts. We have today with us an amazing and honorable guest, Coel Thomas. So, Coel Thomas, welcome to the Stream of Thoughts.
Thank you very much.
We would like you to introduce yourself first. Why are you standing for the Helsinki City Council elections, and what is your agenda?
Okay, well, thank you, Hassan, a lot for inviting me. It's really nice to be here. So my name is Coel Thomas. I'm 26 years old. I live in Eastern Helsinki. I was born in the United States originally. My father is American and my mother is Finnish, here from Helsinki. And our family, we moved here to Helsinki when I was 6 years old. So I grew up here. In the eastern part of the city, in Roihuvuori specifically. These days I live in Itäkeskus, possibly the most multicultural neighborhood in Finland. So I have a master's degree in sociology, in political sociology. Currently I work at a think tank where I've been conducting a research project for the past few months on the Finnish electoral system and how to possibly make it more democratic and representative. I've been a member of the Finnish Green Party since 2013, and these upcoming municipal elections are the first elections where I have stood as a candidate myself. I've worked on campaigns for other candidates in the past. The reason why I got into politics originally was so that I could have some kind of positive influence on the community around me, on the neighborhoods that my family and my friends live in. And I feel like I can have a lot of influence on the direction that our city is going in many ways that would have a positive influence on the places where my people live. And the topics that I'm strongly discuss in my campaign are firstly that we need cheaper homes for people in Helsinki. We need much more affordable housing. We need to protect our forests and our other valuable green areas. We need better public transportation, bike roads. I talk a lot about how we should move towards a 24-hour system when it comes to our metros and trains, especially. And when we do invest in more sustainable infrastructure, such as safer bike roads, right now our bike roads are extremely unsafe. When we invest in that, in public transportation, other kinds of sustainable forms of transportation, it also leaves more space for cars to be on the roads than when people actually need to drive around in cars. I also focus a lot on the fact that we need much better. We need certain new approaches in our healthcare system. Our mental health care services and our substance abuse treatment services are very lacking right now. They desperately need more funding and they need a lot of reforms as well. And in general, in Helsinki, we should make sure that everyone gets quality, free public health care for any problems that they might have, whether it is for their physical well-being or their mental well-being. And of course, being from the Helsinki Greens, one issue that traverses my entire political platform is the fact that as a society and as a city, we need to move towards an economy that is carbon negative, so that we take more carbon out of the atmosphere than what we put in there. And I believe that Helsinki should be a sort of front runner and an international example when it comes to developing a society that is carbon negative. But that's kind of who I am, what my platform.
That's your agenda is, That's very interesting, actually. Being a foreigner and being an immigrant who is living here from last few years, getting to know you people is a really good opportunity for us. So, and we are being an immigrant, we get happy when the people like you who come in the politics and who work for a better home and for a better city for everyone. So I will break down your agenda into different parts, and we will discuss let's start from the climate change. So why do you think that climate change is the most important thing that you included in your political agenda? And when we talk about the climate change, do you think that there is a need for more awareness in the population of Helsinki? Or all the people already aware, or there are any age groups that specifically need to be aware of this climate change?
Okay, good question. Okay, so I'll start with why climate change is an important thing that we have to talk about. First of all, it is the single most biggest threat that humanity has faced in modern times, possibly ever. It is a massive undertaking for the current human civilization to actually change the course that we have right now of our ever increasing emissions, of our ever increasing land use that leads to not just climate change or speeding up of climate change, but to massive biodiversity loss as well, which is an entirely separate issue. But it's basically the core mission of the global green movement is for us to become sustainable ecologically, but also sustainable in a social manner. Without ecological sustainability, we don't have social sustainability. We don't have economic sustainability. Exactly. If we do not make our society fit the limits that our environment gives for us, then our civilization cannot keep going. We will hit a wall at some point. That's why that is the most important thing, and that's why environmental considerations should be well considered in all forms of decision making. Now, is there a need for more awareness on this issue? Well, people are aware. And we do have politicians who try to downplay the severity of the issues we are facing and try to compromise on solutions that we must make. I just read an interesting book, and there was one quote that stuck with me, that climate change and the solutions for how to combat climate change, they're different from most other political issues because we can't really compromise on that. Like there's for most political issues that we have, we can make compromises. And yes, we won't fund schools that much. We'll fund them a bit less, maybe we can compromise on something like that. But when it comes to making sure that our ecosphere is inhabitable for humans, that's not something that you can really compromise on, which is why I believe that it is, because we do have people in Finland that and in the world that do not believe human-caused climate change is a real thing and do not want to do anything about it. And we have politicians that further that misinformation, and I believe that's irresponsible. It's very irresponsible that we have, especially in Finland, right-wing populists who try to advance this climate change platform. Not necessarily directly, not saying that climate change doesn't exist, but that we should do anything about it.
I think being a climate change researcher, I strongly believe what you're saying. Like as a researcher, as a scientist, we can recommend what you guys need to do, but it's the politicians that need to be quite serious about the situation. I was reading a report just today. I have an upcoming seminar in THL in few weeks. So I was reading a report, and if the efforts that the world is doing right now, if they even keep on doing the same things up to the mark that was decided in the Paris Agreement, still the ice in Arctic will be melted by 2050. So we can't stop that. It's already too far, and I am happy to see that the politicians like you, they are bringing this up, and this is very crucial. So
Well,
about the urban green areas, the people want to know, because what are those, and how do you think they can impact the life of people in Helsinki?
well, before we go into the urban green areas, I wanted to address that thing that you said, that there's a lot of things that climate change are causing that we can't stop anymore. And this is definitely something that does keep me up at night sometimes. The somehow how it seems inevitable that we're crashing towards this unprecedented and unstoppable climate crisis. And for me, I mean, it's intense when you think about the enormity of it.
Exactly.
And for me, action has been the medicine for that kind of feeling of hopelessness. Now, if we go, okay, if we zoom down from that big scary thing to your question of urban green areas. So yeah, like I said, my political platform in Helsinki, I do talk about how we need to protect the valuable urban green areas that we still have left in the city. My mother grew up in Helsinki, and when she was a kid, Eastern Helsinki, where I live now, was covered in beautiful forests, very biologically diverse forests. And through since then, in the past 5 or 6 or 7 decades, Helsinki has grown a lot, and we've built Eastern Helsinki primarily into very scarcely built suburbs with a lot of parking lots and highways. And what it's done is that it has really cleared away most of the valuable forests and other kinds of green areas that we have. And we don't have that left. And I grew up in Roihuvuori, and as a kid I used to spend a lot of time in the forests of Roihuvuori, but also in Vartiosaari, for the people from Helsinki probably know what places I'm talking about. And I want us to build our city now in a fashion where we do not cut down the forest that we still have. We have a lot of space here in Eastern Helsinki, parking lots, all kinds of areas in this part of the city that can easily fit tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of new residents if we build them correctly. And we can do that without destroying our valuable nature. And this is a perspective I definitely want to keep up. Of course, outside of Eastern Helsinki, in the north and in the west as well, even downtown, we have green areas that are facing threats from excessive building. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't build more buildings in Helsinki. We definitely need more homes, but we have to do it in a way that does not compromise our green areas too much. And also, one thing that the Helsinki Greens talk about is that we need to plant 100,000 new trees in Helsinki. And that's something that we're going to go into the city council negotiations after the elections. And it's in our campaign plan. And when we do negotiate the upcoming city strategy, 100,000 new trees is definitely going to be one of the things that we're that plan. And I do believe that we can make that happen.
Yeah. All right. So do you think that you talked about accessibility to the information? So I believe that I have seen when we go above, when we as immigrant, we have to go to Migrate Aloud, like applying for the visas, extension of the visa, and all those sort of things. So they cover in different languages, like they have started in English, Arabic, and 8 different languages. So accessibility to information is quite good there. And also, if I talk about THL, the accessibility to information from them is also good. But when we talk about climate change, I have seen news covering about climate change protests in Helsinki, in different other cities where young people go and protest that politicians need to take serious steps. But those things and even those news are mostly in Finnish. But we as an immigrant, if we want to participate in that movement for the climate change or protest for the climate change, we have serious lack of information, access to the information where these sort of events happen. So do you think that accessibility needs to be easy for the immigrants to get these sort of information related to climate change? Do Helsinki city have plans like that to make it more accessible for immigrants?
Related to climate change,
Yeah.
information
Yeah.
accessibility. Well, that's an interesting question. Possibly a topic I don't think I've thought of before. It is true that the Finnish political scene is heavily in Finnish, and I started my own podcast. I have one episode in English. The rest is in Finnish.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, the information that we do have in Finland in the political scene is mainly in Finnish. Now, I don't know of any plans for Helsinki to address the informational deficit when it comes to information on climate change.
Yeah.
Luckily, we do have some news sources in Finland that do make news in English and in other languages, but that is definitely something that should be improved. I'm a big fan of funding of public news agencies that supply news in, for example, English, Russian, Swedish, and Finnish Sign Language, for example. That can sometimes be something that the private sector would not be able to supply. But when it comes to information on climate change, I think that organizations could possibly step up when it comes to, in Finland, how to convey information in English.
Yeah, because I have seen people around me, like mostly my friends from the immigrant circle who are living in Helsinki, or if we talk about generally about the whole Finland, we in the Finnish people, the awareness about the climate change is more what I feel as compared to the immigrants, because we don't get that sort of information in English. So I think there is a serious lack of accessibility to the information, which needs to be improved, in my suggestion. So yeah, that's an area that could be worked. So when we talk about the city council elections, what city council, what is the role of city council? What authority do they have in planning the these green urban areas in Helsinki? Or it is the work of, or is it the work of the state? Or, I mean, how much you can impact on these decisions?
Well, it's a good question, and the answer is the city council decides when it comes to what kind of areas do we protect in Helsinki, when it comes to what areas do we build up. The city council has that power to decide. And so municipalities in Finland have quite a lot of power when it comes to the impacting the day-to-day lives of people. They take care of healthcare, of primary and secondary education.
Yeah.
They build the roads. They, if there's a problem in a kindergarten playing field, the very small things, that's what the city council does. It also takes care of big things like building entire new neighborhoods, new public transportation lines, and a lot of stuff. But that's why city council, for me at least, is a very these elections are a very natural first step for me in politics, because the city council really decides on the issues that have always been most important for me. The issues here in Helsinki that the city council can actually influence.
Yeah. All right. So same thing, accessibility to information, climate change. And one thing that you mentioned many times is mental health, public health issues, especially mental health. So what I feel, this is very important issue as well. So when you talk about mental health, what do you have in mind, and why do you included this mental health thing specifically in your agenda?
Well, mental health issues cost us a lot of money. Maybe let's just start from the economic aspect of this.
Okay.
In the European Union, 5% of our GDP, that's how much mental health issues cost. It is billions and billions and billions of euros. In Finland, mental health issues are kind of like our national disease.
Yeah.
We live in a very dark country. We have a very
Yeah.
individualistic society. Also, we've been under a pandemic for the past year. And
Exactly.
when people have to isolate from each other, they have to be at home, they have to work on a computer all day. They don't get to
Yeah.
do the things they normally get to do.
Yeah.
It's been a very stressful time, and we already had a lot of mental health issues in this country
Yeah.
before this pandemic.
Yeah.
And now it's starting to become
Yeah.
more of an emergency. Now, the Helsinki Greens have done a lot in Helsinki to improve mental health, or the reach that mental health services have. We have one of our city councillors, Alvin Alametsä, whose European parliamentary and Finnish parliamentary campaigns I worked on last year. She actually came out with this very good initiative that started these mental health care clinics that you can just walk into or get a time very quickly.
Oh,
and
right.
the idea is that for people who have mental health issues and need help, you can't make them wait months.
Yeah.
You can't. That will most likely just make their issues worse. A person who
Exactly.
needs help should get help. That's
Exactly.
why we have 2 clinics in Helsinki right now that offer this like immediate help. And I spoke with Olivina just a while ago, and she said that many people who have been able to get this immediate help, they didn't have to go into more serious psychotherapy sessions even. And all the money that we invest into mental health services ultimately lessens the cost that we might have with it later on. I mean, when we talk about mental health issues, the worst that can happen to a person is that they commit suicide. And that is something that we definitely want to combat here in Finland, or everywhere in the world, but that's something we definitely want to combat. One thing that relates to this, that like mental health care, that's something that we've talked about in Finland a lot. And partly also because of Alvin Alametsä's campaign for the therapy guarantee, that everyone can get a therapy session within a month. Something that we're trying to push through nationally, but also in every single municipality here in Finland with the Greens. But one thing that we haven't talked about that much is access to good substance abuse treatment. A lot of times when people have mental health issues, they also have substance abuse problems. They might be addicted to alcohol, to illegal drugs. There's a myriad of issues that people might have. Right now, Parliament is discussing the possibility of decriminalizing cannabis. The expert testimonies showed that we should actually go towards decriminalizing the use of all illegal drugs. And instead of putting these people in prison, we should give, not putting them in prison. Instead of giving them fines, other kinds of penalties, we should offer them help. Because people who are addicted to substances do not need fines. That's not going to help them. Help. And when in Helsinki, it's easier for teenagers to get drugs than it is to get help, you know that something is wrong. And when we invest into mental health care, we should also look at reforming the relationship that mental health care has to, for example, testing people for drugs before they can get mental help, mental health care. And there should be a lot of reform in this aspect. And I've talked to experts on this topic as well. And the main issue that we have in the substance abuse treatment in Finland is underfunding. So we desperately need more funding for that. And in the long run, that will pay itself back because people will feel better.
That's I think mental health is also one of the very key factors in building up a society. For example, if I talk in the perspective of the immigrant, we also face a lot of mental health issues sometimes. For example, is some racism, event of racism that is just an event that also affects the mental health in the long term. And I think if you guys are opening up this mental health, if you are making it accessible for everyone to get the treatment, to get the sessions, it's one of the very good things that you guys are doing.
Can I just
Now,
very good? That's a very
yeah,
good point. Mental health issues do, in many cases, influence certain groups more than they influence others.
true, yeah,
For example, groups in our society, or people
yeah,
that experience racism,
mm,
are under their likelihood of suffering from mental health issues is higher. The same goes for people that belong to sexual or gender minorities,
true,
or who have different kinds of traumatic
yeah,
experiences,
yeah,
people with disabilities.
yeah.
So this also, access to mental health care is also an issue of equality,
Mm.
definitely.
Also, yeah, and I think this international and inclusive Helsinki that Green Party has been doing since a long time, it's a very good step towards achieving equality and calling city where you're living your home. So I think if the people like you who comes to politics, and when they talk about internationality, the immigrant like us, we feel like inclusive, we feel like a part of society. So I would like to thank you as well for doing these things in your agenda, for remembering all part of the groups, all part of the society, to include them in building a better and homogeneous society for everyone. Um,
So
so
nice to say. Can I say that was
yeah,
so nice to say. I come from a community here in Helsinki that
yeah,
is very international. My father doesn't speak Finnish,
yeah, yeah.
and I went to an international school for
Hmm,
since my entire life. I went to an international school in Kulosaari,
hmm,
and throughout my entire life, I've known people who live in Helsinki who have
hmm,
come from all over the world.
hmm,
I take it for granted that this is an international city, and I take great offense when I hear right-wing populists in Helsinki talk about how Helsinki doesn't need to be an international city
hmm,
or a multicultural city, doesn't need to be a rainbow city, stuff like this.
hmm,
Helsinki has always been a city for people that have come from somewhere else. Since this city was founded
hmm.
around 500 years ago, this has always been a place where people have come from somewhere else and have made their home here, and it continues to
True.
be that.
Yeah. True, true. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And I think all of us, like we come even. It doesn't matter to us. We're like me, for example. I have lived here for a long time, for more than 6 years, and I feel have Finland is my second motherland. So I have the same patriotic feelings for Finland as I have for my home country. So if I feel the same, then and I will really feel appreciated. I will really appreciate if the society or if the city council or if the state level actors, they do the things to make us more inclusive and more better part of the society by taking these simple steps. So
Well,
yeah,
it's something around 10% of the Helsinki population. I
yeah,
can remember if
yeah,
statistic correctly. Something like
yeah, I think
10%
it's 15, I think,
have.
yeah.
Is it 15 even? That
Sorry, yeah,
it's 10 to 15% of people that speak something else than Finnish as their
true,
mother tongue.
yeah,
So
exactly,
it is a very diverse city. I studied in the Netherlands, in
yeah,
Rotterdam.
yeah,
The
okay,
amount of, or the percentage of population that
yeah,
has some sort of immigrant background
yeah,
is it's 50% in
yeah,
Rotterdam, and
okay,
that I grew up in Helsinki, and this is my home.
hmm,
I'm definitely a Finn,
yeah,
but when I Netherlands, I had this kind of similar experience where I could come
yeah,
into the city, an
yeah,
extremely educational, safe, beautiful city
Yeah.
that was welcoming for
Yeah.
outsiders. I do
Yeah.
believe Helsinki is more welcoming than Rotterdam, but let's not get into that though.
All right. Also, one of the main purpose of making these podcasts is to raise the awareness among the immigrants like us. For example, if I'm not correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. If the people who have lived here, the immigrants who have lived in a city for more than 2 years, they can take part in the city council elections. They can cast their votes. So the people who are listening this, please contribute. You can play your role in making a good society, in making a better society, by voting for the people that talk about your rights. So please do vote in the city council elections. If you are listening from Helsinki, please vote in the Helsinki city council elections. Okay.
I have
And
nothing to add to you said it all, man.
and also affordable housing. You guys have been talking about affordable housing. We had another podcast with Milja. The link is in the description below. So I have heard people, especially from the Green Party, talking a lot about affordable housing in the Helsinki city area. So what are your views about the affordable housing, and what do you think, why it is such a prevalent problem in Helsinki city?
Yeah, thanks for the good question. First, I got to give a shout out to Emilia Suikko as well. She's going to be on my podcast this week, actually. We're going to be talking about national defense.
Nice.
But yeah, definitely go check out Emilia Suikko's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Shout out to her. Anyway, so your question was about housing, also a theme that Emilia has. Okay, I'm going to stop shout outs to her. Anyway, so yeah, cheaper housing is one of my primary platforms because housing prices have been rising in Helsinki for a long time, and our population keeps rising as well. If we slow down the rate at which we build new homes for our citizens, the prices will keep rising higher. And the basic concept is that if you have enough homes for everyone, then the prices will be lower. If there's more people that want homes than homes, then the price will be higher. That's just market logic. In addition to that, the city should make sure that in new neighborhoods that we build, this is something that Helsinki has been quite successful in the past, that in new neighborhoods that we built, there's a mix of different housing types, that there's publicly funded social housing, that there's more expensive houses, that we have student housing in different areas. And city should definitely have a active role, and even more active role than they do now, in producing like subsidized housing so that people can afford to live in the city.
All right. Yeah.
And like one thing that I can still add, that we have a lot of people, Helsinki has a very young population compared to the rest of the country. We have a lot of kids, we have a lot of teenagers that are growing up that want to find their own home in this city, and we definitely want to keep our own teenagers living here. We want them to stay here and not necessarily go to, no offense, Kuopio or Tampere. We want them to stay here and contribute to our city. And but we also, at the same time, we have people from all over the country in Finland coming into our city, because Helsinki is a nice place to live. But we also have people from all over the world who want to live here for various different reasons, whether it be fleeing the situation in their own country, or whether they find a job here, whether they're here for love. There's a myriad of reasons why people want to live in Helsinki, and we need home for the future people of the city.
True. And if the politicians like you come in the politics, I'm sure that immigrants and people from all the groups of the society, they can truly call Helsinki their home. So they can have.
You're giving me a lot of credit, man.
No, it's okay. I think you deserve it. So I think these are all the points that I wanted to discuss with you. Do you have any other things or agendas that you think are important and that you want to highlight in this podcast?
Well, maybe I could say something about one of my favorite topics, transportation. So
Yeah, sure.
in Helsinki, we have I'd say one of the best public transportation systems in the country, definitely. But we still have a far way to go if we want to reach the kind of level that we see in cities like Stockholm, in Copenhagen, in Amsterdam, other Nordic and or other cities in the Nordic countries, in the Netherlands, for example. Right now, well, our metro system is very good, but it stops running at 11, which is very annoying if you live especially in Lauttasaari in the west, or if you live here in eastern Helsinki. Now, most people that live downtown don't necessarily need a metro to get home. Also, trams go longer than the metro does. That's why I see a 24-hour metro system, even if there were just hourly trains during the night, it would be a good way to develop the sustainable way to transport people, especially into the suburbs. Now, in the northern part of the city, they don't have a metro, but they have an equivalent. They have the local train. And I believe that the 24-hour model should also be extended to the train system that goes north. Now, also, one problem we have in Helsinki is that our bike roads are very underdeveloped. If you go to other cities in the Netherlands or in Denmark, even in Sweden, the bike roads that they have there are much safer. And every now and then in Helsinki, we have bikers that die. And every biker that dies because of lacking infrastructure is a tragedy and a public failure, in my opinion. Now, we have very ambitious plans in Helsinki for building better bike infrastructure, but the development is slow and it should be faster. And we should also look into ways to develop possibilities for people to bike all year round. For example, in Oulu, in the very north of the country, people bike all year round there, whether it's super snowy. And there's a lot of stuff that we can learn from the northern city of Oulu when it comes to biking, for example. They're a much better biking city than Helsinki is. And when we also, one thing is that we have been planning new tramways in Helsinki, especially into the suburbs. One of the this is something that the Greens have been advancing, not just in Helsinki, but in Tampere, Vantaa, in Turku, in Espoo. The fact that we have more trams, especially into suburbs, and that's also a very that's a direction that I think we should be going into more in Helsinki, looking at new tramways that we can build. And when we do achieve these goals of investing into more sustainable public transportation and bike roads, ultimately we do take cars off the street. Now, that's good for the health of people because we have less particle emissions that actually the people breathe in. So it's good for the health of people. We, at the same time, we lessen our carbon dioxide emissions because for a long time, cars will still be running on fossil fuels, but even electric cars, the production is quite polluting. So as few cars as we can have on the street, the better. Now, people usually want to talk, oh, the Greens want to ban cars. No Green Party member wants to ban cars. We want to, for public funding, to prioritize sustainable means of transportation. And when we do that, less people will be driving cars. So then the people who really, really need cars, for the parents that need to take their kids to hockey practice, for ambulances, for people that need a car for their work, then they have more space to be on the road and they don't get stuck in traffic. And that would be my, I love talking about transportation. It's my,
I think that is one of the very key issues, because I don't have much experience of driving in Helsinki, but whenever I go to Helsinki, I feel very the roads and the places are, I feel very congested, and I don't usually, I'm a person who who takes long driving as a hobby or something, and I love driving, but in Helsinki I feel like pressure on my head. So I think
Mm. Imagine being a biker.
yeah,
No, really,
exactly this, yeah,
we have streets in Helsinki that
yeah,
might feel congested for a driver, but
yeah,
imagine being a 13-year-old driving on the same lane with buses. Now
true,
that is
that
intense,
is
and that's
something, yeah,
still an issue that we have in
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of streets in the city.
true,
We have started to improve a lot of streets.
yeah,
Hämeentie in Kaupungin is a good example of a street
yeah,
that we have in the Helsinki Greens. We have been trying to get improved for a long time, and now it has.
yeah,
Next summer will be the first summer where people can properly drive it, bike on it, and
yeah,
you really tell the difference.
yeah,
Uh, there are still streets all over the city that
yeah,
require better and when it comes to bikes.
true, true. So what one another thing that came into my mind, that when as an immigrant living in Helsinki or elsewhere, we face a lot of job issues. So which, for example, if we have done the masters, we do the odd jobs to support ourselves, and after that to integrate well in the society, we have to find the job that is related to our profession. But unfortunately, many of the people, just to live here, they have to do the odd jobs, and many of us leave the city, or even leave the health, even leave the country, because they can't find the job of their own profession. So what are your plans about it? Do you think that you can that you guys will work something more to create the jobs market, to create a job market for the immigrants?
Yeah, that's a extremely a good question and a very important one as
Yeah,
well. There have been studies in Finland about the possible discrimination in job applications. There was this one study where they found that people with English names,
exactly.
they had something like 10% less responses to CVs, or like they had less responses
Yeah,
to an interview when they sent
yeah,
identical CVs to people with Finnish names. And then
yeah,
when you compared these names to Arabic names, it
yeah,
was, I think it was Arabic or Somali names.
mm,
They also had like Romani names.
yeah,
Uh, there's a very stark difference. Like even English names get less invites to interviews, but then if you have a Somali name, an Arabic name, or a Romani name, the rate decreases a lot,
yeah,
and that shows that discrimination based on just your name exists in Finland, and it's prevalent. And one solution that has been floated around, and
yeah,
Helsinki is actually trying
mm,
out, is this anonymous recruitment, where the
mm,
first round of recruitment is done
mm,
so that you can't see the person's name. So one big block for immigrants or people with non-Finnish names
mm,
is that they don't get interviews.
mm,
That is a big problem. There's a
mm,
lot of other things that we can do. We can make our support services better. And one
yeah,
issue that the Greens have talked about for a very long time, this would be a national scale issue, city
mm,
council couldn't do this, would
mm,
be implementing a basic income. Now,
mm,
a basic income where you get a certain amount of money every
mm,
month, and then you basically the money, if you make more than that, is
mm,
taxed away. But this kind of a system would allow for people to take any kind of job and
yeah,
allow for them to always have more income. Now, the
mm,
bureaucratic system that we have in Finland right now, it's massive. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and
mm,
we should try to get rid of as much of that as possible. And
yeah,
I believe that a basic income system would help, well, not just immigrants, everyone in Finland,
mm,
help them in the job market, because they would have a better position to accept and decline whatever jobs they want, because whatever they can do would increase their wages. And for example, just working on weekends would become a possibility if you can't find anything else. And that would like increase the security that people have. And, you know, when you have more economic security, it also reduces your stress levels and lead to mental health outcomes, as to tie to the conversation we had before. But I don't have massively great solutions, but there are small fixes that we can do here and there. Ultimately, in Finland, what we need is a readjustment of our attitudes towards multiculturalism. And Finland is Finland is a society where we have a lot of people who still hold relatively racist positions. And that's something that we have to actively work to get rid of. But there's no easy fix.
True. So do you think that the same question I had with Amelia, that do you think that immigrants also need to change their attitude to stop or reduce the ratio of racism? Do we, for example, if we have to integrate in the Finnish society, do we also need to change our perspective, or we have to try harder? Or is it, I think the responsibility lies on the shoulder of both the immigrant and the native person as well. I think being an immigrant, we should also try to integrate in the society more, instead of just going along with the friends from our own country or something like that. What are your views about it?
It's an interesting question. I mean, it is challenging to talk about immigrants as one like big group, because we have people who come from all around the world for various different reasons. And an American immigrant who moves here because of love, that's a very different story than a French immigrant that comes here for work, or a South African refugee, for example. There's so many different ways that you can end up from all around the world into Finland. And your attitude should be good, whoever you are, wherever you are. You should respect the others. You should attempt to be a person that contributes to the community around you. And I do think that there are certain, you could say, universal ways that work for people to be somewhat good members of society. I don't want to like single out any kinds of groups or immigrants that they need to. We have I think that people should be looked at as individuals instead of members of some community that we have assigned them to belong to. That's the way I see it. I think that in Finland we have a lot of people who should change their orientation towards other people on a myriad of issues, and singling out immigrants doesn't really seem like a great idea right here. If you catch my drift, I don't know. This was kind of a thought.
Okay, so Coel Thomas, thank you very much for your ideas, for your telling us about your views, about your agenda. And we are really thankful that what are your plans for doing for the Helsinki city. And I again urge the people who are listening to this, who are immigrants, if they have lived here for more than 2 years, they should go and vote in the Helsinki City Council, because this is the way they can contribute to build a society. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for more interesting podcasts in the near future. And thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much, Hassan.
Thank you. So